Chicago Fire still hasn't solved its big Casey and Brett replacement problem, and season 14 will make it worse. With Casey and Brett gone, Chicago Fire has yet to strike gold with its next slow burn couple, and the show's struggles will only worsen in season 14. The NBC procedural drama series has produced many great TV romances. From Severide and Kid to Casey and Brett, Chicago Fire has had its fair share of engrossing, beloved love stories. Chicago Fire Season 14 premieres in the fall of 2025, airing new episodes on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. ET, preceded by Chicago Med Season 11 at 8 p.m. ET, and followed by Chicago PD Season 13 at 10 p.m. ET on NBC. Casey and Brett got married in Chicago Fire Season 12 and drove off into the sunset, Aka, Oregon, together. Consequently, the show needed to find a replacement couple. Chicago Fire has seemingly always had a slow burn will-they/won't they dynamic, so it needed to produce one quickly. The series has explored a couple of options, but they'll both be gone by season 14. Jake Lockett, who plays Sam Carver, and Michael Bradway, Jack Damon, are set to exit Chicago Fire ahead of season 14. Lockett's, along with Daniel Keary's, Darren Ritter, departure was announced before the season 13 finale. NBC reportedly needed to make some budget cuts, and Lockett and Keary were the ones who paid the price. Bradway's exit from Chicago Fire wasn't announced until July 2025, when he was cast to play Charlie Florek in Every Year After, Prime Video's TV adaptation of Carly Fortune's book, Every Summer After. Production began right away, meaning Bradway was unavailable to film Chicago Fire. As such, NBC's show is down two possible/new couples, Carver and Violet, and Damon and Novak. Chicago Fire Season 13 ended with Carver and Violet kissing and confessing their love, but Lockett's exit seemingly negates the possibility of a future for them. Carver and Violet's relationship started as a friends-with-benefits situation until he decided he wanted more. Violet wasn't ready, though, leading to their breakup. Then Carver and Violet spent all of season 13 pining for one another. Chicago Fire Season 13 ended with Carver and Violet kissing and confessing their love, but Lockett's exit seemingly negates the possibility of a future for them. Meanwhile, Damon and Novak's relationship was also casual at first, and unfortunately, it will likely always stay that way due to Bradway's departure. The Chicago Fire Season 13 finale didn't touch upon their romance, meaning the series will never get to thoroughly explore what Damon and Novak's story could be, unless Bradway returns. Even though romance isn't the main focus of Chicago Fire, it's still pretty important within the One Chicago universe. In fact, it plays a significant role in most TV shows in general. People love having a couple to root for or against, and by having one, two, or a few, it's easier to draw them in to watch said TV series. In the earlier seasons of Chicago Fire, it was all about Casey and Gabby Dawson. She was in love with him while he was engaged. Their story was intriguing from the start, and although their relationship ended in heartbreak in Chicago Fire, Casey and Dawson set the standard for all the couples who followed them. Without Casey and Brett, who were Firehouse 51's hit romance for many seasons, Chicago Fire feels stale. It needs a new will-they/won't they do to freshen up the show. Chicago Fire was evidently setting up Carver and Violet and Damon and Novak to be Casey and Brett's replacements. But that dream will be all but lost when season 14 premieres. The good news is that a new actor is joining the Chicago Fire cast as a series regular in season 14, despite Lockett, Keary, and Bradway's exits. Brandon Larracanto will appear in a key role in the upcoming episodes. Not much is known about his character, but he could be coming to Chicago Fire to help fill its Brett and Casey-shaped hole. But if Larroquette is coming to serve as one half of Chicago Fire's next epic romance, one has to wonder why the series is letting go of Lockett. Larroquette is likely portraying a firefighter who Firehouse 51 brings in to replace Carver, Ritter, or Damon. They will be down 3 men, so they'll need all the help they can get. However, when Larroquette's Chicago Fire Season 14 character arrives, perhaps he'll hit it off with somebody at the fire station, probably Violet or Novak, since they're the only single ones. But if Larroquette is coming to serve as one half of Chicago Fire's next epic romance, one has to wonder why the series is letting go of Lockett. Bradway's departure is understandable, given his scheduling conflicts. However, Violet and Carver's story in Chicago Fire was intriguing and only getting started. They could have easily been the next 51 has always been a place where bonds are forged under pressure, love blooms amidst tragedy, and every goodbye lingers like smoke in the rafters. But ever since Matthew Casey and Sylvie Brett left, one to Portland and the other to Oregon to start their life together, there's been a quiet, unresolved ache haunting the halls of the station. And after a full season without them, one truth remains. Chicago Fire still hasn't solved its Casey and Brett problem. The void they left behind isn't just romantic. It's structural, emotional, and deeply embedded in the DNA of the series. Their exits weren't abrupt, but they still felt like open-ended chapters. Casey, the noble, steadfast firefighter with a heart as strong as his moral compass, was once the beating heart of Truck 81. Brett, with her empathy, wit, and steely resolve, was the soul of Ambulance 61. Together, they were more than just a fan-favorite couple. They were pillars of Firehouse 51. Now their replacements, though capable, feel more like temporary fill-ins than legacy characters. Derek Gibson, Jake Lockett, who slid into Truck 81's driver's seat, came with a compelling backstory. A Navy veteran battling personal demons. But despite a few decent moments of camaraderie in action, fans never truly clicked with him. His rapport with Severide lacked the chemistry that Casey naturally carried. Gibson's departure was quietly hinted at last season, and with his rumored absence confirmed for Season 13, it's clear the writers saw the cracks too. Meanwhile, on the Ambulance side, Violet McCamey has stepped up admirably, especially in the wake of losing her love, Hawkins. But even with her strong screen presence, Violet isn't a Brett replacement. She's her own kind of medic. When newcomer Lila Novak was briefly introduced as Violet's partner, the pairing fizzled. The charm, the warmth, the easy compassion that Brett exuded wasn't there, and fans noticed. The deeper problem is that Brett and Casey weren't just individuals, they were anchors. Brett brought empathy and grace under pressure. Casey brought honor, integrity, and a certain quiet leadership that steadied everyone else. They grounded the chaos. Since their exit, the writers have tried different formulas. More screen time for Cruz, drama around Mouch's survival, and ramped-up action scenes for Kid and Severide. But none of it fills that emotional core that Brett and Casey embodied. There's no central love story anymore that tugs at the heartstrings like theirs. Kid and Severide's tumultuous relationship is more about storm than sunshine. There's no steady couple offering hope and softness amid the blaring sirens and tragedy. And while it's unfair to expect carbon copies, the show seems hesitant to lean into bold new replacements. Instead, it's been casting wide nets, introducing characters who don't stick. The Brett/Casey absence isn't just about fans missing familiar faces. It's about the show lacking a stable, emotional through line. In the earlier seasons, when Mills left, or Shay died, or Otis was tragically lost, There were tears, yes, but there was also a sense of storytelling evolution. The baton passed. The next era began. But here, it feels like the baton dropped. That's not to say all hope is lost. Firehouse 51 still has its sparks. Joe Cruz remains one of the most lovable characters on television, and his bond with Javi has added some much-needed heart. Ritter is stepping up with more confidence and presence. And Carver, though brash, is starting to soften in compelling ways. Yet even with all that, there's no clear lead, no emotional compass guiding the story like Casey once did. Whispers in the fan forums suggest a longing for a Casey cameo, even just one episode to tie up emotional threads or give the team a morale boost. Similarly, fans want closure with Brett. Her long goodbye felt peaceful, but also somewhat abrupt, especially given the years she spent building deep friendships with Stella, Violet, and the rest. If Chicago Fire wants to move forward, it must stop treating the Casey and Brett era like a museum exhibit. Frozen, revered, but untouchable. It needs to find characters with that same depth and give them the screen time and story arcs to matter. Viewers aren't asking for clones. They're asking for commitment, for the show to find new pillars who aren't afraid to carry the emotional weight of the firehouse. Rumors swirl about potential new hires. Perhaps a seasoned firefighter with a complicated past, a woman with kids, a trauma she never talks about, and an inner strength that makes people listen when she speaks. Or a paramedic who once worked international rescue, now looking for peace but finding chaos again in Chicago. These are the kinds of characters that could redefine the firehouse in a meaningful way.